Is this you? Have you been in this situation where you fired your fully modified AK-74M loaded with BTs only to have the PMC do a complete 180, tank all your rounds and then blow you away, leaving you scratching your head as to what just happened? Well, in this video we talk about 3 budget friendly weapons which are easy to control, easy to modify, and have extremely cheap ammunition that destroys class 5 or better armored targets, so that you never end up like poor Jimmy here. How's it going, everybody? My name's Chipper, and today we're going to be talking about 3 weapons which are extremely budget friendly and easy to use for new players, but also highlighting the ammunition that these weapons use that can decimate geared players but still be on a budget. There are still a few hidden gems when it comes to ammunition that not a lot of people realize can absolutely destroy high-end geared players. So that's what we're going to talk about today, talking about the different modification options that you can do on the cheap to be as effective as possible to give you the edge, especially if you're on a tight budget. Okay, so the first gun we're going to talk about is our Lord and Savior, the Vepr Hunter. This has to be probably the best gun to use as a new player starting out in Escape from Tarkov. It is extremely cheap to buy off the flea market for around 30 to 40,000 rubles, but it also has probably one of the best budget rounds that you can use at the moment, which is the mighty M80 round. Now, while the M80 round has received a bit of a nerf lately, it's still quite effective in killing scavs and low geared PMCs, since it has 80 flesh damage and 41 pen. At the moment, the M80 round's going for around 270 rubles, which is the reason why it is one of my budget options in Escape from Tarkov. Now, when I'm using the Vepr Hunter, I always use 10 round magazines, and I always pick up 4 mags. The reason for this is it gives you enough flexibility if you do run into multiple PMCs or a dangerous situation, but it also allows me to run what I like to call kill magazines. Kill mags is what I normally end up loading with at least mid-tier or high-end tier ammo, but only in a small capacity, with the intent of surviving early PvP encounters. Now, a lot of players have probably, and especially even new players, have probably realized, especially on maps like Customs, it doesn't take long before you can potentially run into a PMC quite early on, and that's what these mags are designed for. These mags are designed for killing those players and then having budget-friendly ammunition to kill the scavs later down the track. So for instance here, I would end up using probably M62, and as around 700 to 800 rubles at the moment, but I'm only looking to buy 21 rounds of it. So even though it's expensive, you're not buying heaps of rounds. Chuck them into the 2 mags and then 1 into the chamber, which is already in there, and then you're pretty much good to go. Now, when it comes to equipping the magazines, make sure that your kill mag is on the very far left side, and then your following mags are just to the right. When you go to reload, that magazine with the better ammo will be loaded in rather than using a cheap ammunition. Load up your other mags with M80, have some spare M80 rounds in your gamma container, and you're pretty much good to go. Now, when it comes to optics, you can run the iron sights. However, if you're looking to go long range on the cheap, the PSO for 15,000 on the flea market is a really good option. It is a solid optic that's been in the game for quite some time, but also allows you to take the actual mount off if you need to go into close quarters situations. So it's got a bit of flexibility there too. If you say, for instance, you're on shoreline, you're shooting around the power station in the middle of the map with the PSO scope, then you want to go into dorms, you can just take it off. You can even gamma it, or just take it off and put it in your bag, and then use the iron sights for short range. Another good option, and in my opinion is extremely good for the low to mid range, or close to mid range I should say, is the Tactical Tooler TT01 accompanying the PK06 reflex sight. I find this combination to be extremely good, and you can pick up the Tactical Tooler from Prapor Rank 2 for around 2800 rubles and the PK06 off the flea market for around 16,000 rubles. In my opinion, this is the setup that I run quite often if I'm going to do a budget run. This is pretty much my go-to budget weapon if I'm really having a bad day, or if I just want to take a solid weapon and not risk too much. And then go from there. Now, some other noticeable mentions is the Cobra mount, which you can get from Prapor Rank 1. The good thing about this mount is that you can just chuck it straight on the gun, very much like the PSO, and then you're good to go. It is a large mount, but it's an option, and it's relatively cheap at under 10,000 rubles. Another good thing that has just come out is also the SVD low side mount. It's extremely low silhouette on the gun, so it allows you to select, or sorry, allows you to use some of the optics that you might find in Raid, or that you've picked up for cheap, so that's also a noticeable mention as well. But if we were to take this gun out to the hideout, I can quickly show you what it's capable of. Okay, so just with the Vepr Hunter quickly, jumping into the hideout. Do apologise, I can't run the generator while I'm in the hideout. It will crash my game, so I hope you guys can excuse the flashing lights. But it's pretty easy to use the Vepr Hunter. You just got to tap the target. So you just scope in and hold shift, and then you're just going for those single taps. 2 to the chest, and will drop most players, especially with the kill mags. Now, if you do run into trouble, the Vepr Hunter's got you covered. You can just actually go in and just rapid fire the mag. You can get 10 rounds down pretty quick. Now, the good thing about the Vepr Hunter, and this is one of the reasons why I love recommending this gun, is that it doesn't force you to stay there firing a really massive mag, like a 60 round mag. It forces you to fire your rounds and reposition or reload. And I found that much like the Mosin, most people will fire the Mosin round, and while they're reloading or chambering another round, they're moving, they're sprinting, they're hiding behind cover, they're repositioning, and that's one reason why I think the Vepr Hunter is actually really strong. It gives you 10 rounds to either lay down some long range shots, then you're either reloading or repositioning, or in close range you're firing 10 rounds rapidly and then loading up a new one. But you're repositioning, you're potentially moving away, not just staying out there holding your trigger down while the enemy's running around circles, running around you like circles. So I think that's a bit of a takeaway as well. Now, just quickly, I will show you the PSO. Throw that on. Now, you can change the optic as well, just for the PSO, just something to be mindful of. Hold shift, and then you're just going for those taps. Okay, really good sight. Now, the best part about the PSO is make sure you're using the free look option while scoped in, and then move the mouse up, and then you can have sort of like a free zoom and look around. So it's a free magnification, which is really good. I learned this from Ghost Freak a very long time ago, and I've been using it ever since. A really good way to sort of spot players and getting a free magnification and free look. So the next budget weapon I want to talk about has to be the VSS. This gun is insanely good value. You can pick it up on the flea market for around 45 to 55,000 rubles, and this gun comes integrated with a suppressor, is over 900 rounds a minute fire rate, and has extremely low recoil for vertical and horizontal. With all that combined, makes for a weapon that is super easy to use for new players, but also has some really good budget options when it comes to ammunition. So when playing the VSS, the same rules applies for the Vepr Hunter. I always load 2 magazines with kill mags, or mid-tier to high-end ammo, and then the rest of the ammo is the budget-friendly. In this case, the kill mag rounds are going to be the SP6 rounds. Now, these are going for around 600 rubles at the moment on the flea market, but you're only looking to have the first 2 mags, so ideally you're looking for only around 40 rounds of these to throw in, and then obviously having one chambered, and then you're pretty much good to go. Now the other option is that in my opinion, SP5 is one of the best budget ammo for an automatic weapon at the moment. It's only 142 rubles that you can even buy from Prapor, and he doesn't have a limit. And this also hasn't been affected by the new price hike that just came in the other day. So you can buy 240 rounds of this for 33,000 rubles, which is actually pretty damn good, which means between this as well as the 40 rounds that we bought, we're looking around 50,000 rubles to buy this sort of loadout, or just over 50,000 rubles, which is pretty good. And 240 rounds will allow you to load your mags, the remaining magazines, and take extra ammo within your gamma, etc. as well. Now the good thing about the SP6 round is that while it is cheap, it only does have 35 penetration, but it does have relatively good flesh damage as well. Now when you compare it to say an AK-74M running their budget variant, which is the BT round, and if you have a look on the flea market, this round is going for over 400 rubles now, and this is with the new price hikes that have just come in. And in my opinion, with BT only having 37 pen, it's just not worth it. SP6, while it has 2 less pen, is going to destroy targets a hell of a lot quicker than the BT, because you've got the insane accuracy and fire rate of the VSS. So this is definitely, the VSS is definitely for that close quarters to mid to low range, so mid-low or mid-range sort of encounters. But in that sort of bracket, so within 50 to 0 meters, it's insanely good and a great value weapon. Now, if you can afford it, definitely go with the 30 round mags. I know the 30 round mags are expensive as all buggery at the moment. You're looking between 26 to 30,000 rubles just for one magazine. And that's quite expensive. So the 20 rounders are quite good, and it still sits within the theme that you should be doing as a new player in Escape from Tarkov, which is once you've fired all 20 rounds, you should be relocating or running away, so that way the players are not expecting you to repeat the same position twice. It encourages maneuverability, so which can, in my opinion, is the fundamentals of what you should be doing as a new player. So that's pretty much my takeaway there. Now you can run the Cobra mount, much like on the Vepr Hunter. You can also run the OKP sight as well. It just straps straight on and you're pretty much good to go. No other modifications are really required for these guns. They're really good right off the bat. Now if you did want to run a full grip, you do have to get the TOS 6P29M mount. Chuck that on, and then I prefer the Fortis Shift Tactical Grip as it gives the most amount of ergonomics. Strap that on, pick your side of choice, and then you're pretty much good to go. But that does increase the cost of the weapon considerably. The TOS mount goes for around 7 or 8k depending on the price on the flea market, but the Fortis Shift Grip is actually quite expensive at around 15 to 20,000 rubles. Alrighty, so we're going to take the VSS just to the hideout quickly into the shooting range. And as you can see here, it's just insane fire rate. It's very easy to use, very controllable. It does have a bit of initial kick if you're standing, so that's just something to be mindful of. But in terms of just getting rounds onto the chest, especially within 25 meters, it is a very, very effective weapon. Even just with hip firing as well, can be quite effective. Even without a laser. Okay, so the final gun I want to talk about has to be the mighty SVD. This semi-automatic DMR, while a little bit more exier than the other options, has phenomenal ammo choices, from either being extremely cheap to mid-tier to even high-end ammo at a really cost-effective price. You can pick up the SVD for around 60 to 65,000 rubles, and that's including optics at times as well. Now the good thing about this gun is that you don't really have to modify it all that much. It does have modification options for like a silencer, etc., but you just don't need it. You can also run very similar to the Vepr Hunter. You can just slap a PSO scope onto it and away you go. The good thing about this too is you can do the same trick if you need to. Pull the sights off, and then you've got just use the iron sights for close range encounters. The iron sights for the SVD are quite effective and quite easy to use, and it's probably the best for just running naked. Now you obviously have the Cobra mount again as well as the cheap variant of the OKP sight as well. Now when it comes to ammunition, same again. If you can run the bigger mags, the 20 rounders, I would do it. These rounds go for around 10 to 13,000 on the flea market depending, but if you do need to save a bit of coin, you can get just the 10 rounders for around 4,000 rubles. But in my opinion, it'd be good to run 2 20 rounders and then have a few 10 rounders as a reserve. But having 120 round is probably more than enough for kill rounds. But the good thing about the SVD is you don't necessarily need to just run a few rounds of high-end ammunition, because there's the one hidden gem that I want to talk about in Escape from Tarkov currently, and that is the SMB rounds. These rounds are absolutely devastating at 75 flesh, 62 penetration. That means that no matter what armor a player is using, you can pretty much two-shot them to the chest, guaranteed. Even if they're wearing Ford armor, this round has the potential to two-shot anyone, and if it fragments, it'll one-shot to the chest as well, and it seems to fragment quite often. I think it's even a little bit higher than the 8% advertised on the round. But the hidden gem about this round is, once you go to the flea market, you can pick up this round for as low as 330 rubles. A 75 flesh, 62 pen round for 350 to 330 rubles is just insane. This is the round that everyone should be using if you're new to Escape from Tarkov. Put this in an SVD, even just in naked form with a 20 or 10 rounder, and go destroy players. It is probably the biggest hidden gem at the moment. The reason for it is that this ammo is actually quite plentiful on maps, especially on reserve in boxes, and that's what's happening here. A lot of players are throwing this ammo up because even if you go to the trader here, and it's pretty far down the list, Prapor, you're looking at 507 normally. So even if we go back down here and we look at, say, someone who's got a bit of a stockpile, so here even at 408 rubles, even if we were buying 120 rounds, that's still under 50,000 rubles for 120 rounds. So even here too, if we say buy this at all 30, obviously they're not available there, but yeah, so all 30 at 10,000 rubles for 30. It's just insane value for how devastating this round actually is. So that is probably one of my biggest takeaways with using the SVD, and probably the one that I want you guys to try the most. Now there are some new rounds that have been added into the game recently, and that's the which is a good option if you want to learn how bullet drop works, and that's the T47N, which is a tracer round, very similar to the LPS. It's just got a little bit less penetration at 41, but it makes up for it in flesh damage at 82. So this is really good if you want to learn how to snipe with the SVD or even the Mosin round. So it'll still have that capacity to one-shot the chest with low-geared players, but allow you to zone in and get used to the bullet drop in the game, especially with the PSO scope. Now you can run obviously 7M1 rounds in like a kill mag, but I just don't think it's worth it. It's especially with the price. So if you can't buy the 50 rounds, which is just abysmal, you're still paying 750 rubles for a round that only has 45 pen. Yes, it does have 86 flesh, and it can potentially one tap even players with class 4. but the SMB round at under 350 rubles with that ridiculous pen is just too good to pass up. This round is the hidden gem of Escape from Tarkov. You run this with an SVD and I guarantee you, you'll be walking out with loot. Alrighty, so now we're going to actually test the SVD with the SMB rounds. So I'm going to be using a second account here to actually fire off some rounds at the chest on a full Gen 4 assault, 68 of 68 durability, and see what happens. We'll just turbo it quickly here. Okay, so in this situation it actually one-shot the chest because of fragmentation, but I'm gonna actually run this test 3 more times so that you can actually see the result that it does 2-shot pretty consistently, or it one-shots. So I'm just going to briefly touch on which armors in the loadout that I use with these budget weapons. And when it comes to armor, there are 2 choices. One is the trooper armor, probably the best class 4 armor in the game for high durability and because it has ultra poly material. That gives it really high effective armor class, and I have a video about that which I'll link in the description below if you want to know more. But this armor here can sell for around 70 to 80,000 rubles and is an extremely good budget friendly option. You'd have to pair it up with a BlackRock though, and in my opinion it's worth it for 30,000 to 35,000 rubles because it gives you decent amount of space for magazines as well as a 2x2 spaces for carrying out helmets or like power supplies and things like that. Probably the best armor in the game for looting and for loot runs has to be the TV 110 rig, because you can actually equip this and not have to worry about buying an unarmored rig. You are really saving about 30,000 rubles, and as you can see here, quite quickly I'm able to buy armor almost brand new for 80,000 rubles. That's insane value. Even if I scroll back further down here, I can even save, that's pretty much a brand new armor here too for 75. So it's insane value with how many spaces you get. Because it's also armored steel, it repairs really well. You can repair this armor multiple times and still be cost effective, whereas some other armors you can only really repair twice, with the 3rd attempt being the case we'd have to sell it. So this is the rig that I would be running if I'm a new player right now. Really good bang for buck, and you want the space too so you can get the loot out. When it comes to bags though, there are 2 options. You can run the Pilgrim bag. It gives you probably the most space for around 30 to 35,000 rubles, but it is gigantic. It will potentially get you killed because it's bright blue, and as you can see the size, it is very distinctive. I prefer that for veteran players in my opinion. However, when it comes to the if you wanted something a little bit more covert, then the tri-zip is definitely the best option. As you can see here, it significantly reduces your silhouette, and it still has fairly good ability to loot weapons and things like that, and it still gives you fairly good loot capacity. So they're the 2 backpacks that I'd be using. And when it comes to helmets, just use the green SSH68. It's really good helm. It's got high ricochet chance. It's around 17 to 18,000 rubles from the traders, and then paired with some contacts around 18,000 as well, you've pretty much got a full kit ready to go. Budget yourself around 20 to 25,000 for medications, either 2 car kits, a Sawella, and morphine or painkillers. So you can save a little bit of money by probably buying the car kits and pain meds, but rather than morphine. But I prefer to run morphine from a survivability standpoint, and then just rely on my golden star in my container. And that's pretty much it, guys. So you're pretty much looking at around 80,000, 30,000 for the bag, 80,000 for the rig, and then for the helmet and the contacts, you're looking at a combined of 36,000 there as well. So overall, for pretty much not much more than around 150,000 rubles, you've pretty much got a full kit, and then another 20,000 in meds. For 170,000, you've pretty much got a very effective kit that will give you decent survivability, but also to allow you to loot quite a lot of items in raid. Because that's the thing, there's no point in taking like a fairly decent gun and some decent ammo only to take a very small backpack. I just don't understand why some people take the scav backpack and things like that to maybe save a bit of money. Yes, you can kill players which maybe have bigger backpacks, but in my opinion it's still a risk. I'd rather take a bigger backpack, maximize my profits, so that way I'm definitely sort of rewarding myself for getting those kills. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something from it, and you've come up with and hopefully going to give one of these budget options a try. If you do, please let me know which one you did, either 1, 2 or 3, and how you went with it. I'd really love to hear your feedback on that, and if you'd like to see more videos like this again, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. As I mentioned before, really trying to push for 1,000 subs in 2020, so your help there would be much appreciated. So anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.